Welcome to another edition of the Wrestling Roundtable. It's the last roundtable of the year for 2007. I am your host, Eric Santamaria. Joining us on the panel this week, to my right, which would be your left, on the far right, your left, is Brett Simonello. Simonello.
Oh.
Excuse me, a fan of 22 years. To his left, which would be, Lawrence Haber, fan of 21 years. And to my left, Rodney LeConte, fan of 19 years. And being that this is the last show of 2007, it's a lot of people are doing their own awards and year in review stuff. There aren't going to be any stupid awards on this show. We're just going to talk about some of the major news stories of the year. What do you say? What were some of the big shows for WWE this year?
Well, the main story of the year is the bastard child.
Hornswoggle?
Hornswoggle. Nothing is more entertaining in 2007 than that little Mick. Nothing.
Okay.
I thought Melina's title on Raw was more entertaining.
Well, I think obviously the real biggest story of the year is he who we do not speak of, who we've talked about before. But we've talked about his impact on the wrestling industry as a whole. But we didn't talk about his impact on their biggest storyline, McMahon's death. Does anybody actually miss this crap?
No, not at all. It was tasteless and stupid. They were kind of copying The Sopranos a little bit.
Oh, you think?
Because didn't they cut to black after that too?
Yeah.
Didn't they cut to black after that too?
In other words, we gave you the death that the Sopranos didn't give you.
Yeah.
Well, what about the effects that he who we do not speak of, offing woman and his kid and whatnot, having on wrestling?
What? Like Jesus.
It was supposed to be eventually Kennedy gets involved.
But because of the steroid light, because of the Benoit thing, they couldn't do that. Because Kennedy, like everything was ruined because Benoit killed
Well, at
him.
first they were going to bring him back as an accomplice of faking his own death. See, it was me and him and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, my real son.
Then when the death, murders,
Kennedy went on TV.
this necessitated McMahon coming back and being like, oh, my death was fake.
Which necessitated Kennedy having to go on TV lying, and then he got deported because he got caught with the steroids, which they wouldn't have done.
And we end up
would have enforced
with
that policy.
Hornswoggle.
And people actually like this shit.
I enjoy it time to time.
How?
Time to time.
I don't like it only because I know they can't admit that their plans were changed. They like that's why Raw 15 was full of Hornswoggle shit, because they just can't admit that their little plan went wrong. They keep pushing it because they just can't admit that it didn't go the way they wanted to. No, you're gonna like this. It's gonna be funny. See, we're gonna do it every single fucking week until you like it, because we didn't get our way. Wow.
Hornswoggle is the biggest pop of the week.
People react.
Yes.
It's money. No, people react.
Money.
To them, it's money.
How many Hornswoggle shirts you see in the audience?
And not yet.
Has Hornswoggle affected the ratings at all?
It is not a legitimate money drawing thing. It's they don't want to admit that their plans didn't go right. That's why, by the way, the McMahon's starting to act crazy again, because they wanted to do that, but they couldn't because Benoit killed his family.
Well, let's talk about ratings and money. Let's talk about someone who did, for better or worse, like it or not, equal ratings and money. John Cena. How hurt do you think WWF is after him tearing his tit off?
But he never.
I don't think as much, because now they're in a hurry. They brought Jericho back, Miz is back, Triple H is back,
Exactly.
Undertaker's back. All their main stars, that they've had for the last few years are back, wrestling on a full-time schedule. Trying to cover up, and that Hornswoggle, they're pushing him, having him in every segment, having Triple H do a stand-up in every segment, just so they could, cover whatever.
I don't think any of those things you mentioned equal one John Cena.
Well, close.
Cena is a huge loss for them.
He's what they finally got something new over, and he's gone.
He was the only legitimate thing they had.
But when a champion gets injured, and he's the main focus of every show for however long it is, when he gets injured, it's like a blessing in disguise, because somebody else has to step up. They don't have a choice.
They never choose the right guy. Cena's gone, so it's another excuse for them to do all the shit that they want to do that no one wants to
Well, you know what? A blessing in disguise analogy works when
Triple H,
the thing
It's
is
not always, though. It's not
Okay,
consistent,
but
it happens.
if it's a blessing in disguise, it's because what they were doing is old and tired. And I don't think Cena's run was over by a long shot.
No way.
No, it didn't even hit its peak.
He's
Cena got a reaction out of everybody. Hated him, loved him.
They got the best of both worlds.
Oh yeah, they always have this one angle that they have in their pocket that if things go really bad, they can hit that magic button and they'll draw a quick rating. So for them, it was no matter what happens, we always know if we keep the title on Cena, our big thing that we can do is have him drop the belt. And that was another thing that they lost, because now that Cena's gone, they can't do that. So they had to do that ridiculous thing at No Mercy with Triple H and Orton, and the belt switches 3 times because we haven't had a title change, so now we're going to do it as many times as we can in one show.
They are never going to learn their lesson with this guy. You know Orton's new wife is pregnant, don't you?
Oh boy, here we
Really?
go.
No, I did not know that.
I hope
Yeah,
he does another
I
crippler
know.
And
crossface.
he's the champion. You think they're gonna be real happy about their champion getting someone pregnant?
Yeah, but I don't see him being champion longer than WrestleMania.
I know he's not gonna be there long, but it's just one fuck up after another with this guy.
What's wrong with getting his wife pregnant?
Yeah, what's wrong with him?
Because he tried committing suicide a year ago.
If anything, it'll
Yeah.
straighten him out.
Allegedly.
If anything,
I would too if I
having
were
a kid will
him.
make him put his head on straight, stop putting shit in Diva's bags and...
Right, it's a laundry list of fuck
He was
ups.
a kid.
Yeah,
Kennedy, another one.
Well, he's trying to catch up now.
What do you mean he's trying to
Yeah,
get?
Kennedy's also one of these guys where
I like
they
Kennedy.
really try hard to shove this guy down the throat. They make the rest of
He's
the fans
smoking
think,
mirrors,
this
too.
guy is the next thing.
He's
This guy
smoking mirrors,
is
too.
the next big heel. We're gonna shove him down. And like they try so hard. They put him in with Michaels. They have him in all these angles. He already feuded with Undertaker, Batista, Lashley. Everyone, I guess, but Triple H. And still, I mean, the guy isn't cutting it. He isn't getting good reaction. He hasn't had any really good
That's in
matches.
addition to his public fuck
He
ups.
sucks.
Yeah.
He sucks. But it's partly their fault too, because another guy that they don't push the button when it's time to push the button. In hindsight, he actually should have beat Batista for the belt when he fought him at that Rumble.
The Rumble?
Because it was time.
Yeah.
WrestleMania is your Money in the Bank. I thought Kennedy was going to win it and cash in later that night and beat the winner of the Michaels
Well, that was...
Cena match, which would have been a
victory.
huge,
That would have been
instant
huge.
new star.
We-
But
what
they're
if we-
never willing to break the mold. It goes back to the Raw mentality. They
Well, he
never
tore his
change.
bicep,
Yeah, oh,
took the
like I
briefcase
said,
off him.
in addition to him being a piece of shit,
And they had Edge
There's-
beat him, which was.
they don't do much better themselves, unless it's one of their guys. Orton, Edge, JBL.
I don't know what they see in Orton. I mean, he's tall and has tattoos.
Third generation.
But
Yeah,
third
he's got
generation,
prison
but
tats
still.
and he's
You know
juiced
how
up.
long it takes to break them from once they've got their mindset on something. We're gonna do this. Look how long they stayed with Triple H.
Plus, he's associated with Triple H as one of Triple H's babies.
The next big heel is 3 letters. MVP.
Possibly.
MVP.
Possibly, yeah,
Well,
I think.
The difference between MVP and the guys we've mentioned so far is he's actually good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got charisma, he's got talent, he's just getting better and better.
And
each
as
week.
much as I like MVP, it's unfortunate that this is the guy that we're going to look forward to be the. I mean, with all,
Well, he's
all,
not
the,
great.
all the rocks and
He's
angle
still young,
tech.
yeah.
shoved in.
He's a
I think the Bronx and angles are.
That era had the chance to raise the bar so high, and it's set so low now.
Yeah, the era of the
Yeah.
Those
NCAA,
guys
real
didn't have any
legitimate
longevity,
athletes.
they proved that.
It was like 9/11 changing everything. Yeah, for a day.
Well, hopefully we'll have some longevity, and you'll stick with us as we go to our first break. Stay with us. We're going to talk more about the year in review 2007. What a year it was. Welcome back to more Wrestling Roundtable. We're talking about the year in review 2007, and joining us is Martin LeConte, a fan of how many years, Martin?
12 years now.
12 years now. Well, you keep up on a lot of stuff, and we're going to talk more about non-WWF stuff, but before we go, we got a couple more WWF things, like my favorite moment of the year, Triple H tearing his other quad.
Yeah,
How funny
that
was
was
that?
a great match.
How funny was that?
Do you think that really made them lose a lot of money since they were doing so well with the DX reunion
Oh yeah,
thing?
when you saw that pedigree, you knew it was over. You knew.
Well, they had to milk it for the big show because they're guaranteed Michael's
Yeah.
a pop.
Well, Triple H was supposed to fight Cena maybe at that show, but
Something like that,
we'd be
yeah.
remiss if not mentioning WrestleMania 23 because it was the largest attended North American wrestling event ever.
How is
Yeah.
that possible?
Wow.
Somehow.
It's
somehow.
the name
They just
WrestleMania.
pulled.
Well, obviously.
The name, same way the Super Bowl always sells. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter which
doesn't matter
two
who
teams,
plays,
it's
right.
still the. No matter
I mean,
how
it's
much
kind
the
of
show
cool that
sells.
wrestling has something like
Yeah,
that. You know,
it is
that
a
people.
Super Bowl.
But it
Right.
kind of
It's
depresses
that.
me with these
Yeah.
guys.
God.
You know, like Cena, Michaels does not compare in a dream WrestleMania main event money drawing match to a Hogan anybody.
Oh,
Hogan Andre, Hogan Warrior.
Even
Austin Rock.
to their credit,
Yeah.
Batista Undertaker earlier in the year was actually kind of not a dream match, but it was a match that they hadn't done that had some interest. And again, the match was good only because it didn't suck. That had the potential to be their big main event match, but Cena had become so huge in that year that he had to end the show, and they didn't have anyone to put against him. So it's like default Michaels, who didn't win the Rumble, by the way, and I hate when they do that.
The winner of
Just because I think
WrestleMania-
they just
the
wanted
winner of
Cena.
Royal Rumble should
Main event, right?
And they didn't do that mystery.
Because that makes the Rumble bigger too.
As fun as that last
You wanna
two
fight?
with Undertaker and Michaels was at the Rumble, it still depressed the hell out of me that these guys
Oh yeah,
are
totally.
the contenders
That they go
10
back.
years
They
later.
go back after
who else?
Austin Rock era, Brock Angle era, all those eras, even recent eras, era. They're going back to guys from before all of that shit.
Because
which is
you know what,
fun, and it's not because they're
Who
cool.
else? Who else? Who else do they have
That's their own
that much
fault.
over? It is
That's their
their.
own
It is
They
their
have
fault.
plenty of people.
They
who
could have
can
made
fill that
Kennedy
spot.
that guy, like I said earlier, if they wanted to.
But you know what?
They could have made Umaga that
They,
guy.
in
if
the
they wanted
same,
to.
same sense, they could have put someone over in a Royal Rumble the way they put Diesel over in the Rumble. The way they put Batten over in a Rumble.
What if they didn't blow the load on Umaga Cena earlier? Had Umaga win the Rumble dominant, just like Yoko did. Why not have Umaga Cena at WrestleMania? People would actually believe this guy had a chance to end the big Cena title reign. Anybody.
Speaking of Cena, that would bring us to what a lot of people think is this greatest match in Raw history, even match of the year, blah, blah, blah. And that would be when our favorite fuck-up, Randy Orton, trashed a hotel room in Europe and they had to go to
Wow.
Michaels and Cena, extended to, what, a 50-minute, hour-long match on Raw impromptu. And people are thinking it's this great thing. I don't think it's even the best Cena match or WWF match
How
this
interesting
year.
it is, though, that when they have to go out there without a script, all of a sudden it's entertaining.
Right. It takes someone dying or trashing a hotel room for us to get a straight-up wrestling show anymore.
But then when they have a chance to think, we get Hornswoggle.
But
That's the funny
the match I think was really good this year in WWF above all was Cena and Umaga at the Rumble, Last Man Standing.
It's
Yeah,
amazing
that
how
was a good
they take
match.
somebody that I hated from the moment they debuted on Umaga, and they actually did a really good job getting this guy over.
They
and
did.
then they ruin it.
He's like beating Michaels, he's beating Triple H.
Helps to point out the foreign wrestlers.
In a
too.
week after week, he's beating all these top guys.
Beat Flair in his
Ruined.
first match.
Speaking of
That's what they got Brock over.
Speaking of Samoan wrestlers, that'll bring us to TNA.
TNA.
And they had a pretty decent year. They got their pay-per-views outside of Orlando. They have 2 hours now on Thursday nights, which means twice as much crap. And we've talked about TNA before, and since we have, Samoa Joe had his shoot incident on the pay-per-view,
Oh, God.
which is now being diluted by being turned into an angle. But Loki is now the Raven to Dixie Carter's Eric Bischoff. The first to take that offer to leave, him, Ron Killings, and I believe one other's on the way. Being that Austin Aries quit TNA this year to opt for Ring of Honor,
Good for
do you
him.
see this as the start of a trend? These guys in the mid-card, and there are a lot more who were complaining, who didn't take the opt-out. In fact, Samoa Joe apologized.
Do they want to be in TNA and kind of have the freedom to wrestle, or go in WWE?
They won't even make it on TV.
They're not gonna, right. So these guys know they're gonna make more money in the indies
Right.
working more dates like Aries. He's like, screw this TNA, I don't wanna be a pretend star. I either wanna be on Raw and be a real star, even as a jobber I'm still a star. People walk up in the street, I can sell my merchandise. Or it's money. Or I can go to the indies, have freedom to wrestle, people will appreciate me more, and I'll be able to feed my family as a wrestler. That's what it is. So probably, yeah, it might start a trend like that.
But some people do it just for the money, just for steady pay.
You can go to Japan if you're in an indie.
Oh, of course, but
You know?
Japan commands a lot of money. I mean, they pay a lot of
Yeah,
guys.
that's what I
Well,
mean.
then-
Why
yeah,
stay
yeah.
in TNA? But for Aries and guys like that, I think it was more financial decision.
Someone who's made a lot of appearances in Japan this year, surprisingly enough, Kurt Angle. And of course, Kurt Angle,
Good for him.
he's had like a ridiculous year with TNA.
Yeah.
He had that moment where he had every single belt.
And I don't know. I can't say bad because
I hated it.
Kurt Angle's got to be my favorite wrestler right now. Just
I think
because.
Kurt Angle still.
Still?
Yeah.
Yeah, I started hating on him in the WWF because I felt that he'd become such a shell of his former self, killing himself, and he just looked like shit with the neck surgeries, and he kept coming back and helping them and bailing them out. He's working less days, he looks happier, he's in better shape, he's not on as
His
much
wife is
juice.
hot.
His wife is
Yeah.
on TV every week, and she's hot.
Yeah, she's
So, you know,
cool.
I'm actually kind of cool. I don't mind Kurt Angle
I
being
don't
the
mind.
guy there. I mean, if anybody, it should be
It's
him.
better than Jarrett if it was.
Or
me.
Christian.
yes.
Oh, better
Or
than
Christian.
Jaguar, or Christian. They're trying to make Christian a face now.
But-
Feuding with Angle.
Kurt Angle can't be the only guy.
Sure.
Yeah,
Because
see,
it's not-
never mind. It's like, oh my
Make-
God, this guy was
make
like
jokes like
Let's
this.
put every belt on him. I mean, just give him every belt.
It's
I
not,
think
it's not
It's
a real
not,
big story because it didn't affect anything, but
Okay.
this year, around that time, is when the NWA finally split ways with TNA, which really is more of a shame than a story, because NWA still has some semblance of a name,
Yeah.
some semblance of history.
That's how TNA got started.
And TNA, from the very beginning, really should have been using that a lot more than they have.
They could have
So,
been WCW again.
well,
We're back.
NWA split really didn't affect them at all. And that's kind of sad.
Just the title, it's just the title.
By
wise,
design,
it
though,
did,
you know?
because seeing Angle with like a major like NWA title would have been better. You mentioned like Flair's and Dusty Rhodes got that belt, and then you add Kurt Angle to that name. Okay, this guy's gonna be like the big
The only-
generation guy.
They could have
The only-
had Samoa Joe win as soon as they.
You know what? You know what's bad about it? I love Sting, but it forced them to put their belts on all these old WF and WCW guys real quick, just so they could say that the TNA belt was held by Sting, not just the NWA belt.
What do you guys see as your own opinion wrestler of the year? Whose year was it in 2007?
Kevin Nash.
Solid choice, Martin. Very good. You've learned a lot watching the round.
I think it's really a toss-up either way between John Cena and Bryan Danielson.
I would probably say Cena.
Somehow it seems that Cena's gone above his ability, which we know is very limited to
Yeah.
be very courteous, and somehow got these matches out of guys who weren't carrying him, like Umaga and Khali,
Oh, yeah.
and he's been able to sustain that.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no,
and he
not
hasn't
Khali.
hurt anybody, to which I know of. You know,
What?
Not Khali.
Oh, come on, Martin. That match could have been a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
With a lesser
I didn't
person.
see
It was Undertaker was a disaster.
If one thing could have been extended this year that I was really enjoying, it would be Vince McMahon as ECW champion.
That was fun.
I know it's like blasphemy for me to say I liked anything
And
he
now-
did, but that was so fucking
Yeah, it
enjoyable.
was.
Everyone who wanted ECW to come back and loved ECW so much, I hope you love that.
I actually wanted ECW One Night Stand to be in the Manhattan Center and have McMahon as the champion in that arena.
That would have
been
been
very
that would have been great. I would have gone to that. I would have gone to that.
Do you imagine the reaction of that crowd?
CM Punk eating a pedigree would be more fun than that, though.
Oh,
Well, hope you're having fun. We're having fun here, so
Yeah,
stay
definitely.
tuned for the next 7. We're going to be talking about who deserved a better run with the title. Which title? Find out when we come back. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. Joining us on our panel once again is Chris Harris, a fan of 15 years. And now our topic we're going to talk about is who deserved a better run with the title, who had a title, not necessarily one specific world title, and didn't get it. And when this question came up, I immediately thought back to the Attitude Era. Pretty much pick and choose. Anybody.
Kane. First title run.
Yeah, but should he have even won it in the first place?
No.
Yeah.
Kane was hot at that time.
Oh, to fuck the
Really?
Austin trade up?
Who else would have,
Nobody.
Austin?
Nobody should have beaten Austin.
Nobody beat Hogan. They were like, Bundy's hot at the time. They were not Bundy.
Hogan had the belt 4 fucking years. They didn't.
They didn't have TV every week.
Oh, but that's an excuse then if they had
It's
TV?
I'm not talking about Austin's title run. I'm talking about Kane's title run.
Well, I don't
As
think
an individual thing.
I don't think it should have happened then. If he had a title run, maybe down the line, but not in the middle of Austin's title reign in '98. He was too fucking hot.
Austin was the next Hogan, and they went and they can't put it on like just an upper mid card heel. That was Russo.
Of course,
The whole point was just to feed Austin people till the next WrestleMania.
Yeah, but it's not just Austin or anyone related to him like Undertaker and Kane and the feuds they had. But what about like Rock and Mankind? Rock, Mankind, Rock, Mankind, Rock.
I was okay with that.
No.
I thought because it was all everybody knew it was going to end with Austin getting it back anyway, so it was just a way to make it cheap.
5 title changes in a month?
Maybe not 5.
Well, that's what they did.
I mean, because like when they want it to be like a real sport, stuff like that happens in sports where like teams go on winning and losing streaks when they're dominant. So I could see them having a series. You know?
Teams winning and titles changing hands are different.
Because you know what, to their credit, the NWA used to do shit like that over a longer period of time with like
Right.
2 guys.
A lot of it they didn't acknowledge either, like Flair in Puerto Rico losing to Carlos Colon.
but
and blah,
TV's a
blah, blah.
different era.
Yeah, it is a different era, but having grown up in that era, when we were used to year-long title reigns at the time, it's a fucking shock to see Mankind win it finally.
On TV,
and then lose it
Rock on TV
2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Well,
But Kane should have had a longer
who do you think deserved a better run with the title?
Foley's a big one, I'd say. Foley's definitely, he worked his ass off for all of us, for our entertainment.
Yeah, but
And
you can
Even
say
in
that
that
about
Austin
a lot of
era, you know, like
you add up all his title runs together, and what is it, 3 weeks?
Well, sure, I think Foley deserved a better run with the title.
He did his job. He busted his ass, and he was over with the fans.
Sure, I mean,
He was over.
He definitely deserved a better run with the title.
in that
than he had.
Austin era though, you know, that's like people saying Piper should have won it in
I didn't say
85.
during Austin era.
You know, because Piper did, you know, he was really over. But during the Hogan, that's what made them so huge. Because they said, we're sticking with this guy. We have to. And they were going to do it with Cena. But they didn't have a Foley or a Piper type guy to back Cena up. So they had another person to put. Like if Hogan went down in 85, put it on Piper, let him hold it until Hogan comes back. You have a huge drawing match.
Goldberg's WCW title run.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, agreed.
That
Yeah.
should have been at least a year.
Yes. Sting's initial title reign, too. They couldn't wait to put it back on Flair. It was supposed to be Flair finally passes the torch to a new guy. Not Ron Garvin, because Magnum TA hurt. We finally have our guy. Luger didn't work out. You know, all these guys didn't work out. This guy Sting is over. The fans love it. They put it right on Flair. And it was in a magazine. It wasn't even on TV. I read it that they did it in the Meadowlands in a magazine. He could have been their Hogan. Really could have been their Hogan because he could have went to every city and gotten bigger and bigger following.
I know someone who got really fucked with a title run twice. Savage in WCW.
Savage should have carried the title for a long time. They could have. Savage was a main eventer, all right. They could have put him over even more.
The
Especially when he
WWF
beat
guys
Sting.
except
Come
Hogan
on.
shouldn't have won the WCW title.
No,
there was no reason
no,
to.
I don't think so.
With
Savage
Sting and Luger and those guys deserved it more than Savage ever deserved it in WCW.
But if you're going to have Savage win the belt, don't you think it'd be better to have him hold it more than a day?
If you're gonna have anybody win the belt, you should have him have one of the day.
But
Kills the
Savage,
belt's value.
come on, man. He was
I
hot
love
at the time,
Savage,
you know.
but-
He was, even with the inner feud with the NWO, he wasn't getting along, and he still goes and wins the belt from Sting.
Luger's title reign, I think they did it right because they needed to get it.
97.
Yeah, I think they needed it to
97.
get it on Sting, and I thought it was good to put on the belt as like a thank you and to give the fans a little taste of the big moment. But if they left it on him, it would have devalued Hogan finally beating losing to Sting.
If it did anything, it gave them a little hope
Yeah.
that Hogan's defeatable.
I think
Yeah.
I think it made sense because Luger was a good person for that role, but Luger shouldn't have held it longer than he did.
No,
Having
I mean,
it a
he
week
was
or so.
really hot at the time.
That made sense.
It was hot.
And Hogan was so fucking awful with that belt that year.
Yeah,
You know, he
it made
never
sense.
wrestled. He barely ever defended.
But I mean, if Luger had held it over a longer period of time, it probably wouldn't have made sense.
No.
So
I
it
mean,
works both ways.
It ended up with Sting getting totally screwed over with that Starrcade finish anyway.
Yeah,
and
that's just-
stripping the belt.
It just got fucked from there.
Batista. He's clearly not their guy anymore. At WrestleMania 21, he was going to be bigger than Cena. They put him on the main event. He was the next guy. They're like, we finally found our guy that we're going to run with. Forget about his injuries and stuff. But do you think by winning the title on these B shows and losing them on these B shows and in these three-ways, he lost the title in a three-way and he won the title in a three-way this year, didn't he? He beat Mysterio and
Khali,
yeah.
he lost it.
And by just not doing anything of interest with him, do you think the
Exactly.
people really see him as a main eventer like they do Undertaker?
His first title reign lasted
Oh, 'cause
almost
he-
a year. That's a
That's
pretty
hot
decent
as
run.
Yeah, he had a good. Had a dominant run. He ran through
It's not like he
Triple
lost
H
it.
how many times?
So that was why they should have done it one time like Goldberg Hogan. He beats him and that's it.
Yeah, but they don't do that
It
anymore.
means
They don't
that
do that
that's bad. That's a bad
They
thing.
haven't done
because
that for years.
Batista was hot when he beat Triple H at WrestleMania. The second he had to fight him at Backlash again, it was like I thought we're done with this. And Triple H slowly killed him by. Even though he kept losing to him, by having to keep going back and fighting Triple H.
Yeah, but they've done
Imagine
that
Hogan
because-
fought Iron Sheik.
Also, he fought.
Yeah, but-
Imagine Hogan fought Iron Sheik for a year after he beat him.
Yeah,
It'd be
but they did the
ridiculous.
same thing with Triple H and Rock. They went back, they fought something with
But they
Austin
were
like
trying to
that.
make a new star.
And then they went back and they did the Iron Man match, and then they did the whole.
Yeah, but that was just to
six-man King
kill
of the
the
Ring
time.
match.
That wasn't to
And
build a
then-
new star. They're trying to build their next guy with Batista.
Would anyone vouch for the internet favorite of Rob Van Dam?
Yes.
Or
Yes,
was
I
it
don't-
necessary?
Well, what he did.
caught.
No,
Oh,
he got caught.
yeah.
I saw RVD in Vegas at a hotel that week, and he just didn't even care. So the week he got stripped, he went to
you
Vegas
would
with
think
his
he
girlfriend
wouldn't
or
have
wife.
cared because after years of being held down, finally made it to the main event spot, and he fucked it up.
Everyone knew he was a transitional.
That would
champion.
have been huge
They
though,
wasn't
because
gonna
he was
hold
the
the belt.
guy
You
from
know-
ECW that never
Worked out
held
for
the title.
Edge, as it always does.
You don't think people were like, finally, he's got the belt, and they invested something in
Yeah, it's just same thing with Benoit, but
Yeah.
same thing is like same thing with the man that we don't mention. It's only a matter of time before he loses it. It's like he won it, yeah. All right, let's please the fans. Now let's find. Yeah, it's almost as if you see him win it,
Hey,
and then you expect
transitional
him to lose it.
champion. Yeah.
Well,
transitional
it's only a matter of time before
Bittersweet.
we're going to have to take another break. So we'll be back to talk more about who deserved and didn't deserve a longer title
topic.
reign. Welcome back to the Wrestling Roundtable. We're talking about who deserved a better run with a world title and who didn't. And when I started thinking back to who deserved a better run with the title, I found it very funny that more often than not, I'm thinking about the big gold belt and everyone except Triple H who's had it since 02.
Yeah, a lot of wasted title runs. I mean, Shawn Michaels, what was the point of that one? The first one?
Not just
What
him.
was the point of that one?
Goldberg.
Goldberg,
Goldberg.
Mysterio.
Mysterio was
Yeah.
the worst. Mysterio should have had it at least till Survivor Series.
That belt
that
is
year.
treated
At
like-
least, and he should have won in the main event, which is bullshit.
Booker.
Well, yeah, I mean, really,
Well,
his
King
time.
Booker had a
King Booker was a
decent
decent
run.
reign.
It was, but we knew it was leading to him jobbing it to
Yeah.
somebody. You
Well,
know.
not only
Like
that,
Batista.
but we also know when the right time for him to win it was, and it was WrestleMania 19, and
That
we got
was-
fucked over huge on that one.
Yeah.
Not we. Booker,
Yeah.
Booker was killed that night. Pat.
I heard him. I heard him.
Until
a lot.
he won-
And he could even win the IC belt.
Until he won King of the Ring years later, he was like,
Strickland.
But
back.
He's
Mysterio-
finally in the mid-card.
Mysterio, and a lot of these are WCW guys.
Ah,
Probably
really?
coincidence.
Surprise.
There's a guy that we know probably could have been marketed right. The underdog, the undersized champion, making it and somehow getting away with these title wins. Instead, we got one good defense, which was against JBL, a legitimate win. Every other goddamn show on TV, on pay-per-view, him and Khali, he's getting squashed, he's getting thrown around.
He's getting squashed by Mark Henry. It was ridiculous. It was a joke too. Burying WCW even more. Here, our guys are going to bury your 5-foot WCW champion.
Would you say the same thing about Guerrero and He Who We Do Not Speak Of in 04?
Oh yeah,
my
and right
God.
after they lost, I mean, they put it on Brad fucking Shaw. I hate Brad Shaw. Come on,
Let me put it this way.
It's not like Benoit. I understand why Orton. They were grooming Orton. That, I can understand that, and I knew Benoit was getting his.
At least he
I
had
knew
it
wasn't
from
the Benoit
WrestleMania
era.
to a SummerSlam.
I'm not stupid. Okay.
Standard run.
I was more pissed off about how Benoit left WCW than how Benoit lost to Orton. I knew that was coming. But Eddie, it was like we finally have a new top babyface for our show that everybody gets behind and sells
Yeah.
T-shirts, sells merchandise.
Especially since Brock
And
left.
it's JB fucking L.
He beat Brock, but he lost to JBL.
He wasn't
That's
even a
just-
character until the
Well,
monkey beat Eddie.
let's put it this
Second.
way. First of all, Guerrero and He Who We Do Not Speak Of. Them winning the belt was a huge bone being thrown to fans like us. Smart marks on the internet, real fans, and the boys in the back who all appreciated that they busted their ass in continents across the world and blah, blah, blah. It was the equivalent of Halle Berry and Denzel Washington winning the Oscar in the same year.
Pretty much, yeah.
It was like, okay, here you go,
Denzel
now
comes
shut
out of
up
the training
and
day.
let us get back to doing what we want to do,
Yeah.
which would be the subsequent
Hillary
Batista,
Swank and Batista.
Orton, and Hillary Swank winning the belt. But, not that Bradshaw was the best choice, because I hate him too, but do you think they felt it was necessary because they were worried any second of him falling off the wagon? They made
Oh,
Malenko his
okay.
baby.
All right. So if they thought Eddie was gonna fall off the wagon, fine.
They made Malenko his
Brad
baby.
fucking
Couldn't they couldn't have
Shaw.
picked anybody better? I mean, put it back on Undertaker for somebody like that. Then you know,
But I
he's
think
gonna
they
bring.
felt that JBL was going to be a great heel.
I know another.
Which I'm not gonna lie,
He's Bradshaw.
He's still a great heel.
It's Bradshaw. Oh my
Justin
god.
Hill,
I
still a
can't. I
great
can't
heel.
even do
He's
this.
still the fact that he called Shawn Michaels a prick on TV.
I like that.
And
That doesn't mean I want to see him beating Guerrero for the belt,
He's a
though.
good
Oh no, I'm not
Entertaining
justifying that.
commentator.
I'm not justifying
And having the
that.
longest fucking title reign.
And fuck you, Jericho.
Yeah. Being Brock is
Jericho's with this guy now.
Speaking of Brock,
That's great.
another guy I think got not that I like Big Show, but to cut off Brock's title reign
Oh,
at
so
Survivor
soon.
Series
Yeah.
02.
He should have had it.
That
too.
was way too quick.
See, what should have happened was him and Angle should have been for the belt at WrestleMania, but in reverse roles. Brock being the defending
And
heel
Angle,
champion.
yeah.
I mean, granted, we wouldn't have maybe had that great Angle Benoit Royal Rumble match.
It
for
could have
the
been
title.
number one contender.
Who
It could've been
cares?
number
You know,
one.
like.
Or
you
you
can
don't have
still
Angle win the Rumble.
keep it on Brock, because
Or just have Angle
everything
win the
was
Rumble.
leading to Brock and Angle. Because this is them. This is why the Cena
Have
thing got
the
over.
Olympic
Because
champion
this has
beat
been
him.
them
That'd be great.
since Vince Russo. Should we do it? Should we do it? We gotta do it. Let's do it. Okay, we're doing it. We're taking the belt off the guy. Why? They do it all the time.
With Brock, it was such a disappointment, and it was.
Well, you want to talk about
Like a kid with no patience.
Oh,
Just in terms of torturous title reigns, I will still, to this day, I never understood
Bradshaw?
how Heyman kept the belt on Just Incredible for 6 months.
but by that time, how many ECW?
Yeah.
How much ECW was watching?
They had fucking Rob Van Dam. He put that off until the fucking company went under.
Yeah.
Then Rhino was the last champion, and his plan, at the next pay-per-view.
Who's
that
gonna
never
be
happened.
RVD versus Rhino?
That's his fault.
Yeah.
You know, he
That
had the
was
TV title for almost 2
almost
years.
2 years. That was a big run.
Carino had
Big,
the
yeah.
Just
he-
building it up and up and up, and it blew up in his face, and he lost.
Put on Carino and all these other clowns.
There was a bunch of
It
other
didn't make
guys, you know,
sense.
at that point.
It didn't make sense. I didn't understand.
You want to talk about some horrible title reigns or like champion, you just go, oh, what about Christian and TNA? Oh my God.
That's a case of TNA. Oh, look who we have.
Yep.
You built him up for so many years, and now we have him.
But
Here's
you
a
know,
belt.
that's
It's like Scrappy Doo being like, let me at him!
Yeah,
That's playing up on this small internet
It
crowd
is,
being
it is,
like,
because he was-
Christian was held down and he could be great and this and that.
And
So
nobody
they,
cared.
not only did they bring him in and put the belt on him, it was as a face, which he's
Yeah.
horribly
He is-
unsuited
Yeah,
for.
he beat Jarrett, so I was happy.
Well,
I hate Jarrett.
That's the lesser of two evils, isn't it?
Speaking of
Why not Joe
TNA,
beat
what
you?
about Rhino's title reign?
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
How about a horrible
We
reign?
talked about that in one of the previous shows. Another one where he
Yeah.
had. It's like when Raven won.
Why even put it
Yeah.
on?
Why?
By the time Raven won it, it was like, what, 2 years too late?
Yeah.
Well, the list goes on and on. There's lots of names that we could be talking about who deserved a better title reign and who didn't. But we're out of time, and this is our last show of the year. It's a good year. We started at the end. So thanks to everyone who made us up to number 63 last I checked. Most subscribed to for a director on YouTube.
Make us number one.
We hope to be more successful in 2008, and we thank you for that. So tune in next time. We'll be talking more about such topics in wrestling, like our favorite and least favorite commentators and favorite submissions and finishers as well. Thanks for viewing. For the panel, for Chris Harris, Lawrence Haber, Rodney LeConte, and Brett Simonello and Martin LeConte, I'm Eric Santamaria. Thanks, and see you next year.